If your lavender keeps dying, chances are you're making one of just 5 mistakes. And the worst part is, they're the exact mistakes most gardening books tell you to make. Lavender isn't difficult to grow. In fact, it's one of the toughest plants in the garden, but if you treat it like every other flower, it won't survive. So let's get straight into it because mistake number 4 is responsible for more dead lavender plants than almost anything else. Let's start with the biggest mistake: overwatering. If I had to guess why your lavender is dying without even seeing it, I'd probably guess overwatering. It surprises a lot of people because when a lavender plant starts turning brown or drooping, the natural reaction is to grab the watering can. But here's the problem. Lavender doesn't usually droop because it's thirsty. More often, it's drowning. Its roots are designed to grow in dry, rocky soil, where rain can disappear for weeks. When those roots sit in constantly wet soil, they slowly begin to rot. And the frustrating part is that you usually don't notice until the damage has already been done. So instead of watering on a schedule, check the soil first. Stick your finger a few inches down. If it still feels damp, leave it alone. Your lavender would much rather be a little thirsty than constantly wet. And once you stop overwatering, the next mistake becomes much easier to spot. Even if you've fixed the watering, there's another problem that catches a lot of gardeners' soil. Now, most plants love rich, fertile soil. Lavender isn't one of them. This is where so many gardeners accidentally work against nature. You buy expensive compost, mix it into the planting hole, maybe even add fertilizer, because you want your new plant to get off to a good start. But lavender doesn't see rich soil as a gift. It sees it as a problem. Instead of producing lots of flowers, it starts putting its energy into soft green growth. It becomes weaker, leggier, and much more likely to struggle. If your soil is heavy, don't make it richer, make it drain better. Adding gravel, coarse sand, or grit is often far more helpful than adding compost. And speaking of where your lavender grows, now, this is where things get interesting. Lavender doesn't just enjoy sunshine, it depends on it. If your plant only gets a few hours of direct sunlight each day, it'll probably survive. But surviving isn't what you're after. Without enough sun, you'll notice fewer flowers, weaker stems, slower growth, and sometimes fungal problems because the plant stays damp for longer after rain. That's why those beautiful lavender fields you see in southern France always have one thing in common: nothing blocks the sun. If you can give your lavender 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight every day, you're already solving one of the biggest problems most gardeners never think about. Before I reveal the biggest mistake most gardeners make with lavender, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever grown lavender successfully, or are you still trying to keep your first plant alive? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're finding these tips helpful, take a second to hit the like button. It really helps this video reach more gardeners who need it. Now let's talk about the mistake that surprises almost everyone. Here's the mistake I told you to stay for. This one catches people off guard. We're taught that mulch is good for almost every plant in the garden, and most of the time that's true. But lavender isn't most plants. Wood mulch traps moisture around the base of the plant, and that's exactly where lavender needs things to stay dry. That constant moisture creates the perfect conditions for crown rot, which is one of the fastest ways to lose an otherwise healthy plant. Traditional Mediterranean gardeners figured this out centuries ago. Instead of bark mulch, they used gravel and small stones. The stones reflected heat back toward the plant, improved drainage, and helped keep the crown dry. Sometimes the oldest gardening tricks stick around because they're still the best. And that brings us to the final mistake. And finally, the lesson that ties everything together: weak. This might sound strange, but sometimes the best thing you can do for lavender is nothing. Think about where this plant naturally grows. Nobody waters it. Nobody feeds it. Nobody covers it with mulch. Nobody checks on it every morning. It survives blazing heat, poor soil, strong winds, and weeks without rain. That's exactly what it evolved to do. So instead of asking yourself, what else does my lavender need? Start asking, what can I stop doing? Less water, less fertilizer, less fussing over it, more sunshine, better drainage, a little space to breathe. You'll be amazed at how quickly lavender responds when you stop fighting its natural instincts. So, which of these 5 mistakes do you think has been causing the biggest problem in your garden? Let me know down in the comments. I read every single one. And if this video helped you understand lavender a little better, make sure you subscribe to Golden Garden Secrets. Every week, we share simple, practical gardening wisdom that helps you grow healthier plants without the guesswork. And next time, we're looking at another favorite herb that gardeners struggle with, rosemary. You might be surprised to learn it's suffering for many of the same reasons.